Welcome to the Thinky Doers podcast. Thinky Doers are those of us drawn to deep work, where thinking is working, but we don't stop there. We're compelled to move the work from insight to idea, through the messy middle, to find courage and confidence to put our thoughts into action. I'm Sarah Lobkovich, and I'm a Thinky Doer. I'm here to help others find more satisfaction, less frustration, less friction, and more flow in our work. My mission is to help changemakers like you transform our workplaces and world. So let's get started. Hey friends, thank you for tuning in today. We are going to talk about something that I've been observing in actually the software market around goals and OKRs of all places, which isn't my usual topic of conversation. But first, we're going to back up a step and just give a real quick introduction to what OKRs are, where they come from, since I do get some questions from folks who don't have a background working with OKRs. So we'll step back to go forward, and then we'll go from there with a little conversation today about the mainstreaming of objectives and key results. OKRs, or Objectives and Key Results, are a collaborative goal model made famous by John Doerr in the book Measure What Matters, and the methodology's adoption by Google and many other high-growth startups and enterprises. Here at Red Current Collective, we work deeply with our specific flavor of OKRs. We call them connected strategic OKRs, as part of our work with clients to help them build fully connected strategic operation and implementation stacks. I'm a very experienced OKR coach, having trained over 2,000 OKR coaches myself in more than 300 organizations worldwide. I've facilitated over 500 hours of OKR workshops. I stopped tracking at 500 hours with clients from solo founder startups to Fortune 100 companies. And I've worked with OKR rollouts for teams from 1 to thousands. I am a serious OKR nerd as part of my larger interest in workplace performance, human motivation, and leader development. And despite the buzz that Measure What Matters made in the field, and despite practitioners like me who've gone deep on the practice of OKRs, Objectives and Key Results still aren't mainstream. If you've never heard of OKRs, you're not alone. And if you've heard of OKRs and have an aversion, you're also not alone. Many organizations have experimented with and abandoned OKRs, in part because Measure What Matters created a tremendous amount of excitement about OKRs, but provided very little practical information about implementing them, especially in cross-functional organizations and large matrixed organizations. Google has a Google playbook for OKRs, and that works great for Google, but cross-functional deployment based on the Google playbook can be confusing at best and really frustrating for organizations and teams at worst. And much of the rest of what most of the market knows about OKRs comes from the rapidly growing $923 million OKR software market. I'll include a link to the source for that in the show notes that also says that is headed for $2.6 billion by 2023. Specialty OKR platforms have done a lot to increase awareness of OKRs and to build out practice guides, training courses that help make it easier for organizations to roll out OKRs at scale, enough to need and renew those platform subscriptions. And the specialty platforms are incentivized to sell and retain software seats at scale, not necessarily to do the painstaking work of architecting and supporting the operational and behavior change necessary for OKRs to take root and then deliver on their promise in organizations. And that's where OKR nerds like me come in. That's where practitioners like me come in. As I mentioned up front, I don't typically work with OKR software and platforms. My specialty is really on the methodology side. Some of the most successful and mature OKR deployments I've worked on with clients don't use an OKR platform at all. They're focused on the communication and clarity benefits of OKRs rather than the compliance elements. And we're able to set up rhythms of business that work for their purposes using existing tools in their business software stack. The OKR platforms definitely have a place, don't get me wrong. But what we're seeing in the market right now, we can't help but notice a shift in the position of OKRs in the software market. And with these shifts, we may hear about OKRs a little less and about key results more, or about objectives and key results more. And that's a shift that we here at Red Current Collective welcome. We'd like to give you a few tips to keep in mind when you start to hear these words around your workplace of objectives and key results. In July, Microsoft Viva Goals launched a generally available trial release. That's the post-Microsoft acquisition of a tool formerly called Ally. And Asana added a product called Goals for tracking OKRs to their core platform. There are still lots of other platforms and tools using the name OKRs for their OKR tracking, but the shifts made by Microsoft and Asana in their language, in the goal-ification of OKRs, really caught my eye. Recognizing that objectives and key results are helpful building blocks for increasing consistency, organization, and meaning to goal setting is a logical addition to these team-based products. We are continuing to see proliferation of OKR modules under the name OKR included in non-specialty software. Airtable has an OKR template. Miro has OKRs incorporated into a bunch of their template. I've got links to one of them in the show notes. And Smartsheet has OKR templates and systems, and we've worked with a few clients that have implemented in Smartsheet. So now, in addition to the purpose-built OKR platforms, we're seeing objectives and key results being incorporated as a goal and planning system across all sorts of non-specialty software as well. And someone who doesn't have experience with OKRs might sit down with one of these tools and wing it. You don't have to be an OKR expert to type words into these tools. For smaller organizations and teams that are used to nimbleness of operations and continuous learning, you may learn what works for your organization by sitting down with one of these systems and winging it. With some exceptions highlighted by motivation science research that we'll cover in another future episode, any goals are better than no goals. So have at it. Write your goals. And if you find that one of these tools helps you organize them and track them, then awesome. But if you're a leader in a larger organization, or you anticipate working with goals that cascade or localize into multiple levels of your organization, that's where I'd steer you toward a more formal approach to goal setting. And specifically, if you adopt one of these goal tools to ensuring that your organization uses the term of art of key results with a definition that's rooted in OKR implementation best practices. If you do that, if you reserve the term key results for a specific meaning, you can avoid some of the preventable pitfalls large organizations do run into when they wing it with adopting a goal model, especially in the area of key result formation. That imprecision around that term can lead to huge confusion down the line, and it's completely preventable with a little bit of education and organization up front based on what we see working with clients every day. Next, let's talk a little bit about what makes key results special and why we recommend that clients are careful with that term. Over and over for over a decade now, I've seen organizations focus their goal setting on financial measures at the company level. I will never forget the first enterprise I worked in that unveiled their annual plan every year with the goal of grow revenue by 10%. The organization would scurry like worker ants to come up with activities and plans that might achieve that growth goal, often without cross-functional alignment and with a serious disdain for any questions that might slow down our worker activity. So questions like, what's good growth versus bad growth? Or what resources do we have to grow with? Or are there things we need to stop doing to perform better? Those questions were not received well, not popular. And so activity plans would be formed, status meetings scheduled, and then we'd all hope that the activity we planned would somehow magically add up to the growth number the organization set for itself. Sometimes it did, often in a strong market, and sometimes it didn't, often in a weaker market. But we rarely learned how to do better the next year because we didn't have other measures of success that we were able to set and learn with beyond just growing revenue. We didn't have other measures of success or other potential leading indicators of success or risk that we could work with and learn from in the business. So it meant that our activity was a little arbitrary. It wasn't designed to achieve outcomes that we knew would ladder up to that revenue goal that the organization had set. And so let's talk about how key results help in a situation like this. Objectives and key results are most uniquely important because of the specific addition of key results. Key results deliver on the idea that we need to align on our most important measures of success and those most important leading indicators of progress or risk. Our key results, when written well, can fill the gap between the big outcome goals that companies typically identify and the work we actually plan to do. So we can ask and answer the question, how are we going to know we're making progress on that outcome goal? Or how could we measure that we're headed in the right direction or the wrong direction? How are we going to know when we're at risk on our outcome goal? We can also ask, what are we going to see change in our business if we're making progress toward our outcome goal? Or what other sub-measures do we need to achieve measurable improvement on? What supporting measures of success do we need to achieve to keep our long-term strategy on track? And again, can we quantify our leading indicators so we reduce the risk of any surprises on our outcome goals? Those are the kinds of questions that we ask and answer to identify actual, objectively measurable key results based on data, not based on opinion or instinct or weather checks or temperature reads. So asking and answering those questions and aligning on our key results instead of just activity plans lets us all increase our confidence that when we organize to achieve our key results, our labor will add up to greater success on our outcome goals. Only certain roles in the organization might see how their work directly supports those big outcome goals at the company level, the grow revenue by 10% kind of goal. But when we set key results by asking and answering questions like the ones I just shared, that gives us more measures of success that really matter because they are connected to our most important outcomes. But then more people in the organization are able to look up at those key results that we set and think, how does my work support this? Or which of these does my work ladder up to? And then when we see our work connecting to the upline key results, those are places where we know that's a priority to focus on our performance. If it's connected to our key results, it's one of the most important priorities of the business. A couple other nuances. In the model we work with, activities are not key results. In the approach that we take, if a critical result is activity-based, say like release of a product, or if progress is evaluated subjectively, then we treat it as a key initiative, not as a key result. And key initiatives may have outcomes that are measurable that might be key results. But if what we're talking about is the activity or the subjectively evaluated progress, we're going to estimate progress at between 0 and 100%, then we consider that a key initiative, not a key result. Some key initiatives are important enough that we might set an objective and key results for them. It's a great practice because then we've got a workload and we align and agree on what the objective for the business is and what the measures of success that workload's going to be measured by. But we don't just list activity plans as key results because we reserve the term key results for objectively measurable leading indicators and outcome measures. So with that, our key results describe our most important areas of change, improvement, experimentation, innovation, the places we're stretching together toward a goal that is specifically designed to achieve maximum performance. And the key results that we work with, the model we work with here at Red Current Collective, are key results that are specific and difficult. And our key results are specific and difficult, and our approach to key results is designed to align to over 35 years of empirical research on goal setting theory, as well as the most currently available research on motivation science. The taxonomy we work with, the words and meanings of goal setting in the connected strategic model, is very simple. It's easy to learn and it makes intuitive sense. The attention to words and meanings avoids huge potential confusion in implementation, since we only call something a key result if it is indeed a most important measure of progress or success. And this discipline and taxonomy help avoid the most common issue we see with new OKR adoptions, which is way too many key results and way too much activity in our key results. When our goals are meant to provide focus and we wind up with long lists of activities and ideas, along with a few maintenance measures thrown in, and maybe some actual key results, then our key results lose focus and clarity. And that's when OKR implementations wind up in my inbox for rehabilitation and turnaround. So it's important that organizations treat the term key result as a term of art. If that word is used interchangeably with objective or goal, or if we permit goals that aren't an objectively quantifiable measure of success to be called a key result, we're headed for big confusion if the organization ever does want to implement actual OKRs. You and your organization don't have to use OKRs. You don't have to follow any rules or dogma of OKRs, but you may at some point find yourself leading or supporting one of the many organizations craving more objectively measurable progress and performance information, more objectivity about your organization's contributing measures of success, and those big, bold outcomes that your annual plan calls for. And when you do, you may wish you'd started with a solid definition and set of practices around key results from the beginning. It's way easier to start with that terms, words, and meanings than to have to reclaim and redefine that term down the road. If you'd like to learn more about anything I've shared today, you can drop your email onto our newsletter at ck.redcurrentco.com. Or if it's easier to spell, there's a shortcut to that URL from findrc.co/subscribe. If the spelling on red currant is too tricky, it's CURRANT like the berries. We're getting ready to announce a few new ways to work with us in time for the 2023 reset cycle. And in addition to our current clients, that list is going to be first in line when we open up availability. Our new flexible and on-demand service models are designed to expand access to services for clients who aren't able or interested in signing on for long-term consulting, but who would like some expert help ensuring their OKR implementations are designed to help, not hurt, their organization's performance. So that URL again is findrc.co/subscribe. And we'll get an update out in September to get ready for the 2023 reset cycle. All right, friends, that's it for today. Thank you for joining and listening. I'd love to hear from you about what here resonated, where you got stuck or confused, and that's on me, not you. Also, if there's anything you have questions about, you can find me at Sarah Lobkovich everywhere. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one. It's SARALOB as in boy, KOV as in Victor, ICH. And no, nothing here is easy to spell. I'm sorry. I'd be thrilled to have you as an email subscriber for infrequent, more formal, just business messages. You can subscribe at findrc.co/subscribe. I also have a more personal list that takes side trails into topics around well-being, mental and emotional health, and my motorcycle life and other serendipity at sarahlobkovich.com. You'll find a shortcut to the show notes for today's episode via thinkydoers.com. We've got a few different topics in the works right now to help you get ready for your year-end reset, which is scarily right around the corner for many of us. And if we still have room in our roster after we support our new support model to our list, I'll share an update about those new opportunities to work with us here on the podcast soon. You're also always welcome to drop me an email. The easiest one to spell is Sarah, SARA, at thinkydoers.com. If you've got other Thinky Doers in your work world, please pass this episode along. We really appreciate your referrals, your mentions, your shares, and your reviews. Thank you for tuning in today, and I look forward to hearing the questions this prompts for you.